One is a renovation to the Peters Complex, which includes the turf field and renovations of the existing bathroom concession building. Number two is an infrastructure package, road, sidewalk, drainage. And three is the fire department's self-contained breathing apparatus.
Yeah, streetscape 3.
I'm gonna include that, that's all in the infrastructure, that's part of that, so.
Okay.
You wanna start with the big one? Which is the infrastructure. Tom, when we talked a couple weeks ago, and I said, it's not a bond committee, we didn't establish a bond committee, we said we collaborated with me as the first selectman, Brad and Tom from the Board of Finance, and then the end users per se. Mr. Mann was trying to make it. So, the infrastructure, did you guys get this? You still have this?
I didn't print it, I had,
Go make a copy. That's from the last
I
meeting.
thought I had one, but I couldn't find it.
Okay. So let's go to the fire department while Mayor's doing that. Crazy as it sounds, the Scott Air Pack's basically what it is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They're all up for replacement, 50 of them.
for the same reason that they were
They bought them all at once.
last time, because they all expired at the same time.
Right.
Right, they brought this up at the CDC.
Yeah.
What did we do with CDC? Because this doesn't look like a wonderful project to me.
It's 15 years. I don't know if it's bondable or not.
This stuff, these things are used, aren't they used up?
No, they're 15-year
Right,
lifespan.
15-year lifespan.
They last for 15 years.
The actual apparatus.
The equipment is a 15-year
It's like-
lifespan.
It's a piece of equipment.
And they're saying it's $650 to replace. Now, I haven't talked to them.
150,000.
650,000. I don't know if it can be reconditioned.
Those have already been reconditioned once, or maybe twice. The problem is you get, and Brian will explain to you, you can't bring them up to
Code.
code. Well, to the next available standard that's gonna kick in, you know, in a year down the road that they're looking at already. But he can give you more on that, because I happened to be at the CDC meeting when he presented this.
So I asked Marie and I asked Mark Chapman, this is bondable, because it does have the 15 years.
Right, I think the expectancy of the equipment makes it vulnerable.
Which we did like with the communication stuff, Tom. We did that. I just don't know why we bought them all at the same time, but it's like buying 2 fire trucks in the same year.
The way it was explained to us was that every 10 years or so, the standards get written.
Change.
NFLPA or
NFPA.
NFPA
Yeah.
standard gets changed, so the certifications that they have then become moot, and then they have to get new equipment that meets the new standards in NFPA.
Mhm.
So they're kind of like in between a rock and a hard place. I think they came to us to split the project up, to buy a certain amount one year and then finish buying it another year, if there was no grant,
Right.
and that they made an application for the grant. So I mean, I think the useful life of the equipment is long enough,
Right.
in excess of 10 years, that probably makes it bondable. Bond counsel would be able to tell us
I
that.
sent-
But they said it's okay.
I sent it to Maria, and she said it is. And here's the other caveat to it, is if in fact they do apply, they've applied and they do get a grant, that just comes off the top. We have to approve the full expenditure. And then if they get a grant to supplement, that's all we spend, we spend the
Does it say how
difference.
much the grant that they applied for is?
No,
And when will they have an answer to it?
don't know,
Because it could stay in CEC pending,
approval.
but if we're going to bond, 6 of 1 half
It's
dozen.
a spending
6
authorization.
of 1 half.
Right, Right.
It's something you have to have.
right. Unfortunately.
Well, I mean, we don't want people going into fires with handkerchiefs over their face.
There's a few.
It's that movie.
Oh, wait, wait.
Right.
Right there.
Carrying his axe. Forget the movie. What's the movie? The fireman movie.
Yeah.
Back to
Kurt Russell.
Yeah,
That's
that's
that. It was coat wide open. John Wayne.
Now, has any of this been set aside for future CEC funding?
It's in the CEC request, they made the
For
request,
this
for
year?
15, 16. It's in the
Okay, For the
CEC
upcoming budget?
Mhm.
The whole month, 650,
Uh,
or were they phasing it?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, is if we get a grant, we can CEC the balance. It does save us a little bit of borrowed money.
right, less interest.
Well, the interest is not gonna be that great,
Right, no, it's
I'm thinking more about,
But
getting this
we can know
passed.
that before you.
I'm thinking more about getting this passed through a budget process than to have it as a referendum. My only concern, and we've talked about this, is we got a pretty sizable bond coming up.
Hmm?
And I just wanna make sure that this isn't gonna scare people more. That's all.
Yeah, I don't remember, I think it was all in there.
The whole
650?
650?
No, apparently he's got, they're all up, their life expectancy is up at this point, so they have to replace them all.
Right.
So they would.
Kinda wish you could buy some that went 10 years and some went 15.
Yeah.
So, you know.
You have to,
Spread
what
it
you
out.
have to do is bring things forward and replace them sooner than you want to replace them, and then that would give you, you start to jump that.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah, I
the same
understand.
thing with the police cars.
Same thing with electric, I have 4 trucks that are all gonna age.
That's what I mean, that's now you're in the three per year plan,
Right.
so you gotta cycle them.
I got 4 trucks that have all reached maturity in 2 years again.
Maybe then we should make sure that, there's other equipment that these guys need on a regular basis, including trucks. Make sure these things are planned out so we don't have them all at once.
Well, that's why the truck, several years ago, they said they need 2
And what
trucks.
do? We always defer because, oh, don't worry about it.
No, we made them buy one, because they were both bought the same year,
Yeah.
they bought one, and then we waited 3 years, and then they came back, what do you want? Pumper or rescue truck, an engine or rescue, so they went for the rescue,
Mhm.
and now the process has started for the other engine, which is now 30 years old. Because they bought 2 of those 2 engines at the same year. It was stupid.
We have no choice.
Well, it was a choice, they should have planned, somebody should have planned.
Well, the town didn't play.
Right.
The fire department requested.
Nobody
well
planned.
You know
Before
what the best
that.
part of it?
Yeah.
I was on the board of finance and they let that.
I was actually the fire chief when that happened, so I
I
can
was
tell you,
here.
Yeah.
town didn't plan very well.
Obviously, the board of finance.
Well, I don't know, I mean, it's like, I'm gonna come to you, or if I'm here in 4 years, 5 years from now, I'm gonna tell you I have 4 trucks that are 25 years or older. And you go, well, how come you're telling us now?
We're not gonna be here, we're going.
So,
We're going.
You're
Partner.
gonna be in California with your grandson and granddaughter.
but that's the potential you have. Same type of thing where I would come to you and say, listen, I think you ought to replace 2 of these in the next couple of years, and then you won't wind up replacing 4 of them 4 years, 5 years down the road. Because replace 4 of them within 1 year or 2 years' time, you're talking some serious money.
So when we got the 650, do we have a specific quote that they got, that they derived?
That's why I was hoping he was here tonight.
Yeah, I think we're gonna.
So
need
let's,
that.
we should make notes, what we asked him, what we need for him for additional information.
I don't know if it's went out, if this is something he's bid on, or is it something that's are they a
Sole provider.
sole provider?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you use that brand.
And what is the amount of the grant, so we need to know what the amount of the
Yeah, we gotta
grant
know
that he applied
All
for is.
the economics of this thing to see if it makes.
Potential.
Sure.
Because
You wanna make sure it's done that way.
you may or may not get the grant, so if the resolution is to approve spending not to exceed 650,000, then you have a caveat, it won't be in the resolution, that we potentially could get, because when you present it at the town meeting, you have to say, well, we potentially could get a grant for X, to offset costs, which will reduce the amount of money we actually have to,
Yeah, we ultimately borrow.
out of pocket, right? That makes it, softens it a little bit. Okay. You got it?
Good.
That's all we're looking for today? That's good, all right. Moving on.
Brian, you know,
Yeah.
no, we do need.
He's stuck on a Mary, sometimes he sends me a text, I'm stuck on a Mary Parkway. I almost said, well, where were you? I have several ideas in my head where he potentially could have been, but I didn't.
Several.
Only several?
No, well, young guy. Right. The infrastructure list, Tom's seeing it, we had this last a few weeks ago. On the backside, you get it's a road program, keeping know, and we've been doing this like every 4 years. Keep up with the roads that have been taken care of for 25, 30 years, and the sidewalks, and the drainage, and all that good stuff.
Okay. Look like that.
So
Yeah, there's
You
no
might.
shot.
a list of roads, areas, tonnages, and estimated costs based on the type of work that will be done, whether it's a reclaim, shim overlay, or just an overlay.
What's the 1145?
Where you looking?
I
Oh,
got,
that's my, all right, no, we'll get into that. Then
okay.
we get into the 1145 is below, is the bridge program. Remember the bridge program down below?
Mhm.
See the very bottom, 1145.
Mhm.
You take,
Oh, that includes the one you just got yelled about.
Well,
Kelsey Town.
yeah, it does right now, as based on the last engineering report we got from the state inspector.
that may have to come out.
May have to come out. Well, we still have a share of that, but not,
Right.
that may offset the share if we go to the.
What, you mean the state has to return?
Well, the state has a bridge program that you get involved with, and based on, I talked to the state bridge inspector the other day, and I'm waiting for the report to come in, but apparently the bridge is, I think for the first time, they went under with a snooper and looked at it, and they now decided that, you know, what their last recommendation wasn't quite sufficient. So I'm waiting for the new recommendation to come in, but you can apply for the bridge program in the state,
Right.
and they fund a significant amount of the repair, but, you know, that situation, you have to do the entirely the state way. You have to kind of weigh the,
It's
What is
small.
it? Is it grant money or is it borrowed money?
No, it's grant.
Grant.
Well, it'll probably be
it's
20%.
like an
local
orphan
match.
bridge program.
Okay.
20% local match overlay. And you have to meet all the requirements to the state, which
Right.
is a formal process of RFQ, RFP, interview process for selection of design engineers.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and the actually, we wouldn't even be involved in it very much locally as far as who we hired. or who
No,
we did.
they would, no, you're not allowed to hire off a list that they,
They pick a con,
You know,
they'll,
Big Bob, I mean.
well, they'll tell you who's gonna do the
Who's
job.
gonna design,
No, it's
who's
a
gonna
full
do it.
bid, it's the
Full
whole,
bid.
Yeah.
Our town engineer won't even be involved in the process, once you turn it over to them.
Yeah.
They just give you the bill.
so with those two together, we're at 4.5.
Oh, wait, let me make sure, grant money or no, they're gonna still control this?
It's their job.
It's their job. We
Even though it's a local
contribute
bridge.
20%, I mean, what you do is, because one way or the other, once they say that bridge is in that shape and that work needs to be done, you're obligated to do it.
Oh, yeah, I have no.
The only issue you run into, Tom, is like everything else, you know, Dad gets involved, and instead of, you know, just living with that bad distributor, you know, Dad gets involved and you replace the intake manifold, the transmission, and the tires. So what the state will do is they'll come in and do a complete rebuild on the bridge. You know, which may not be actually everything you need to do at this point, but that's just what they'll do.
That's what they do.
And then you okay, but the 20%, you know, may be equivalent to what we would have to spend just to do a partial repair on it. So, yeah, you know, you're probably, you may spend a little bit more than you would if you were gonna do it, but you'll get a better.
And this 1145 represents our 20%?
No,
No, we don't know.
1145 is three
We don't
bridges.
know, that was the initial, just what we were planning on doing.
That was the three bridges that we've looked at in the state reports.
Okay, so that's up in the air still.
That's Kelsey Town, that's Carter Hill. I mean, the Carter Hill and the Pleasant Valley, we're gonna have to do anyway. That's gonna be on our dime, so those numbers I think we leave. I would say at this point, you take the Kelsey Town over to Tony Easy out,
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
you know what I'm saying?
But
Which
what-
is 725 grand
what's the timing of that process?
forever,
No, I mean, at least.
Depends on how bad the bridge is. They
forever.
declared the Baldwin Bridge bad, they engineered it, built it, and got rid of the old bridge within 3 years.
Right.
All right, so it really depends on how bad they view the bridge as being.
It'll be forever.
Yeah, but
What you refer
But
to,
how can we won't, it'd be tough to present this.
you would, you said we take that out there, it'd be a
Take it out
separate,
now.
you have to come in as a separate way of doing it.
Yeah,
Well, if we only end up with 20%, that's not that bad.
right.
Well, correct. It's just, sometimes there's a question of
That's what I'm
20% of
We,
what?
we
Well, I
have,
mean, if
Yeah.
it's 20% of 700,000, that's not bad.
No, that's not the, that's,
No,
that
that's
was for
our
us,
estimate.
For you to do.
yeah,
That was
it
for us to
could be
do
a
the-
$2 million job.
could be a $4 million job.
Or 4 million, you don't know.
You don't know.
Be cheaper
So
to buy
That was for us to do.
That's why I say I would just take the
Well, you
725
could-
right out.
I gave it
We
to
don't
the
know.
town engineer, and I asked the engineer to weigh whether or not, because of what the state requirements are, which is what Willie's talking about, to weigh with what they, and they went and looked at the bridge, with what the bridge needed versus assigning it or requesting it to be put into the state bridge program. To weigh those two factors, and which would be, you know, there's a leap off point either direction, where you're better off doing it on your own, or you're better off doing it with the state. Based on the information we had, they said that they felt economically we get the same work done, but at a more economical rate, because we wouldn't have to meet all the state requirements with local money. But, based on the last inspection,
Now we're
it
talking.
appears to be that we're gonna have to do a lot more than what we were talking about in the first
Well,
inspection.
then on a timing basis, I know we want to try to bring this to a December vote,
Okay.
so we can get some budgeting
Mhm.
for the road work. Are we gonna know by
No, we
taking
won't
this
know.
out?
No,
You won't know. I would take it out, that's why I would take it out. You won't know for a couple of years.
I'll
Yeah,
go,
but
you take it
But
out.
if it's a couple of years and they say you gotta fix it now, what's the?
They won't tell you.
They won't, now to them would be within two,
Right, that's why I said, you know, the Baldwin Bridge took 3 years.
Take it out.
Gotcha.
well, just hurry up for the state.
That's
Which,
fast.
which takes it down without the additional stuff that I'll.
The rest of the prices that you see there, Tom, are based all on historical stuff that we've done, and I have.
Oh, no, wait, the
prices
road
up.
stuff, I'm.
It's just really deciding exactly what you're gonna do to each road, you know.
You take Kelsey Town out, and we're down,
The bridge.
it's $3,810,000 for infrastructure. With the caveat then on top of that, which is what we got going on in the center of town right now,
Yeah.
you gotta add, and I would bring it, I'd say $300,000
Yeah.
And what's that, this one?
for the center of town bridge.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's huge.
When the state came through to pave the road, well, actually, when the water company came through and put the main down the center of the road, we ran into an issue on the sidewalk, and Willie and I attended a couple of different meetings, but essentially what the end result of that was, you'll see that that section through the center of town has not been milled or paved. It starts here basically at the cemetery, and it goes to the coffee break on the other side. The reason for that is the work you see now being done on the bridge in the center of town. So the scope of that work is that they did some exploratory test holes in it. They found a significant amount of voiding underneath the roadway in that area. They've pumped somewhere between 70 and 80 yards of flowable grout into there at this point. They're gonna rebuild the scupper well.
Yeah, I figured they would have
They're
to.
gonna rebuild the scupper in the center of the bridge, which was also sucking soil out. But the result of it is,
Drain,
it's a drain, it's like on a boat, you know.
Gotcha.
just runs right.
The end result of it is that during the traffic pattern for the water company, the trucks were directed to go over the sidewalk, and then the sidewalk caved in. So the state's fixing underneath it, we need to fix above it.
And that's what this is.
Well, you're gonna wind up taking that whole length of sidewalk out by the time we're done. So,
Both sides?
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
So basically, this is just an extension of the streetscape phase and work we did.
Yeah.
There's no sense in doing anything less than what we did. So this is the extension to bring it up to the annex driveway and up to Cemetery Road,
Right.
on both sides of the road.
And your estimates of, the big number here is an estimate.
It's a probable construction cost based on engineering and based on all the current information I have right now. I have to meet with DTC, John called me, he was with DOT today, we have to go over a few things, but I would say I'd have this right now, I'm not gonna say this is a concrete number, not to use that term, but I mean, I'm gonna have a much better number hopefully within a week or two, because we have been on site watching what they're doing there to see what's going on.
That's why I say go to 300.
Go to 3, yeah. But I'll know better, I'll call John. John called me today, but he's gonna bother me, but I'll talk to him.
And just by the time this thing is brought to the selectmen and finance and the town, we will have a little bit more definitive number.
Yep,
correct.
Okay.
So that brings that infrastructure up to $4.1 million.
Okay.
Okay. So 650, we got the infrastructure at 4.1.
Now, Pete, have you been able to yet, you've only been doing this for not long enough, but, you know, all our roads, you've inventoried them all now,
I have an inventory of all of them.
so we have a plan. and
Yeah,
stuff.
this is really based on, well, we don't have a plan. I have an inventory that gives you a good idea of what condition the roads are. This is really in consultation with really myself, my crew leaders and my people, but we had a road plan done, I don't know how many years ago.
It was 2003 or 2004.
Which
So we're
we've
still taking
updated.
away that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Which
the
we've
old
we've
roads,
talked about that a bunch of times.
Yeah,
Well, I think we should make sure it's, let's update it.
Well,
yeah,
we need
we're
to-
taking away.
we need, yeah, but
There's a cost
there's a
associated.
cost.
I hear you.
I've done some of the updating.
Well, we can look at the roads on the roadside and say, yeah, we've done this one, we've
I
done
don't
this.
know.
No, 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 I
You
know.
haven't had the opportunity to go down there and present this kind of stuff to the rating agencies?
Never, we don't go down there anymore.
I know, well, it was a good wake-up call for me when I went, it was like going alone committee. You gotta be prepared, you gotta make sure you have a plan. They wanna make sure there's a plan.
We
It's
have-
not knee-jerking.
No,
We had a road plan that said what needed to be done, what each road needed to be done, but the problem with the plan is, it's outdated at this point. We've done, as Louis said,
Yeah,
we've done some roads, but unfortunately, the roads that were listed as fair back in 2003 are no longer listed as
fair.
fair.
Didn't you bring us an estimate,
Yeah, I
4 or
did.
5 years ago
Yeah.
for, doing a survey of all the
Absolutely,
roads?
yeah, it was only $20-something thousand at that point, to
Oh,
update the current one, the existing one that was there. But the problem is, you've gone through now, that plan is 15 years old, so roads that were 10 years old are now 25. And you can go around and you can go look at Old Orchard and Pepper Bush, which were listed in fair to good condition. Back when that thing was done, you can go look at it today. And they will not be listed as in good condition.
Right.
So, and that's the problem you run into with the plan.
we don't have to present a plan, believe me, I've been doing these
Yeah.
for a while now.
I'm doing for my benefit.
No, we have the plan, we have the road study. I think it's just a matter, you gotta go through it and just say, we've done these.
I've got, yeah,
Check them off.
I've converted it
We've done
from
them all.
PDF to Word so I can go do it, but we can do the ones that are already done.
To do what they had on that plan is $100 million.
Yeah, cost-wise.
Because nothing was done for 25, 30 years. That's what I hate to say, you know? What do you want me to do?
Oh, I know, and new roads have been added on.
Yeah.
Yes, they have. So, I mean, this will do a significant impact on the roads that are really, would really stand out in that plan. And we may be able, I mean, and this is based on, if you get this done right away, you'll save a lot on paving, because the cost of
What the
paving,
prices are now.
prices are way down. The last time we did the bond, the price of paving, the last job I did was $160 a ton in place. The last job I did this year, just this summer, was $96 a ton in place. So, and that was just less than a month ago. So, I mean, and the prices have come down. So the quicker you get the money up and the quicker I can put the program together, you get an awful lot done and get it bid over the winter and get it, some of you can't because it's restoration, but, it's a good price. Same with the Indian River Bridge. The price that you get on a bid in January to start in March will be totally different than the price you get in April to start in
Because
June.
everybody's busy.
Everybody's tied up at that point.
Okay, so that's where we are with that stuff. Hey, this is picking away, we've been picking away, this will be the third time we picked away.
Yeah.
This will be the third time we put money towards roads.
But the other thing, Mike, is just so they're clear, the infrastructure money that you put aside now does do a lot of
Patches and curves.
patches, but prepping for this type of work.
Drainage.
We've done a lot of, we rebuilt Arc Road Medley and off of that, and we've done a lot of different things, so I mean, it does help.
Okay. And
Egypt
then,
Lane on here? Is Egypt Lane on here?
Egypt Lane was the last time.
yeah, I
You
think,
know what to do first.
memories, that's when I got to fight Rosemary. We got that $750,000 of LoCIP money back that they never went after.
Cheers.
And it was only supposed to be 400, and I said, Rosemary, I'm taking 300,000 and we're doing roads. You can't do that. I said, yes, we can. We did Carver Hill, we did Egypt. we did-
Yeah, we did a bunch of roads.
All right. And then we have the facility upgrade at the Peters complex.
Actually, I like it when it was bumpy, because then the cars didn't go fast.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Oh, then we had our friend down the bottom of the hill, remember Jim fixed her whole house?
Yes,
Oh yeah, what's her face?
yeah.
Not my favorite.
What's her name?
No,
No, her brother-in-law's the
I walked in the
lawyer.
middle of that.
Yeah, and he fixed the whole house.
No, they had the washout
They
or
got
something.
flooded.
Yeah.
They got
Came
flooded.
off the road.
Then the house got apparently got moved off the foundation, which I don't believe actually happened from that. And we fixed the house. Then I inherited the bill. Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Oh, I remember. What?
Excuse me?
Huh?
And then when we paved it, we curved it, this and that.
Yeah, but that was a whole cave-in, like,
No, it just ran down.
Ran down Egypt Lane and went off the edge of the road, which
The
I
water's still, the water's
yeah,
still.
but something, didn't something compromise her
in her
foundation?
house, yeah, but I mean, it was the, no, not the,
Probably like that beforehand.
it's been like that for years.
Probably,
It's been
the
like that for
suspicion was it was like that beforehand.
years. Yeah. Good, cool.
All right, so here's the upgrade of Peters. So what the proposal is to turf the entire area, as we did with IROC, okay? Whether there's a Morgan or a Husky in the middle, who knows? The benefits, well, we'll go through that afterwards. And then upgrade the existing concession bathroom building, which, Bo, how old is that now?
Oh, God,
I told you this after the telephone.
yeah, it's well over 20 years old.
88.
82,
So it's 30 years old.
30 years old.
So there was the talk of a metal building, because we had access to it.
Butler building?
Yeah, remember we talked about that, we had, based on when we had Chuck Bernier go out and look at the power, because everything comes into this existing building. To move the power and the sprinkler controls is gonna be close to 100 grand.
If not more.
Everything's there, 480 for all the lights, for.
Must go, everything, the whole feed comes right into one of those utility rooms.
Okay.
And the irrigation, so we mix that.
So then the plan was to just to modify the existing facility to ADA compliant bathrooms, which aren't there now, obviously, which is here. Add team rooms, which we don't have there, and it's not specific to any particular sport, because as you notice, there are no urinals. There's just,
Yeah.
girls lacrosse, girls soccer, field hockey, boys soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, football. There'll be a team room for the teams at halftime to go in.
Which actually coincides with the way the field's gonna be striped
Right.
on the turf.
And then the mechanical room, storage room, and then the concession will be modified.
All right, so when I'm looking at this, the concession is where the concession is now?
Yeah.
So this is actually going toward the river?
This is,
The team-
the field is right
Going
here.
towards the maintenance shop.
Yeah.
This is it right here.
There you go.
So you're going 30 feet off the back.
I see it.
And this would be the addition part of it.
And that's, yeah, the team rooms.
Yeah.
Where's the utility closet, the utility there?
Right here. That's staying.
And what's that, the football and the tennis?
No, that's all, no, that's the whole complex, that's all your lighting.
lights.
Must go controls for
Parking
satellite.
lights and everything?
Oh, everything. And the irrigation is in another room on the
The
floor.
irrigation's up in the front up here.
Front up there. And Tom, we first talked about it, Willie's correct, we did, and then I went down and looked at it, and then we looked at it to see if we could leave all that there and build around it, and then tear down around it. The problem with it is that you would have to literally pick up and move all that stuff out,
Yeah.
and you either move it once and make it permanent somewhere else, or you move it twice. So to move it once would mean you have to go into the maintenance facility there, which is limited room to begin with.
That's above the building.
Yeah, and I told Willie, you'd spend $100,000 moving something, and you wouldn't gain anything from it. So the price to move it with the new building, you wind up maybe even a little bit more expensive than what you have here. But you don't gain it. So it's better to, we looked at just renovating it, adding on, and doing some things to it. So you have a probable budget for that.
So it would be if it goes forward, it'd be a package, it'd be the combination of the two. Field.
What happens to that, there's a...
It's the field and the building, which would be about $1.6 million.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah, the
You
building.
have this one, right, Ron?
Yeah, you have a field budget in the building. I did the building budget with,
Pete, Bo, reason for the field, what's the incentive for,
There's many, actually, when you start with maintenance of it, scheduling, has it always
we're
been
gonna have to close it down then.
I will tell you that I was, and I verbally said this when the first turf field came online, I said I was neither a proponent of it, nor was I against it. I was neutral on it. I will tell you, and people said to me, well, how much money are you gonna save by having a turf? You won't have to mow the grass there. And I listen within reason to what people, no, I wouldn't have to mow it, I wouldn't have to fertilize it, I wouldn't have to do this, I wouldn't have to do that to it. What I really didn't take into account back then is the impact of the maintenance on the balance of the natural fields that we have in all our facilities. And what that field has done has so significantly reduced the stress on the grass fields that we're finding that we can keep them in service much longer without having to do any, in fact, we haven't had to do any major work to a field since the turf field's been online. We did have to do field one because we just wound up with a damaged field because that wasn't there. But what it's done is it's allowed us to structure the fields so that we can do, just a routine maintenance, which my crew handles. We don't have to call anybody in to do it. And the other thing is, Tom, is really usability and playability. I mean, they can be used in the pouring rain, they can be used in the.
There's also a significant saving on water too. You'd be
Yeah,
surprised how much
irrigation.
we spend on, over at Peters on
Well,
water.
that's on city water.
Huge, city water.
yeah, well,
What's
it's
this,
the new school.
Huh?
Is this the long jump area?
Yes,
What other field events do you guys have?
there's discus, which is, on another part
Really?
of it, and there's shot put.
They're not,
You don't throw javelin?
No.
No, that's on the
That's not gonna do
grass.
it.
no, they throw it out in the lower pews.
Lower Peters.
That's what.
Shot
That's what they do with them?
Shot
Between
was done
Scout and Hole, they have the
behind
shot put and the discus,
Discus.
oh, shot put by the football
by the
field.
football, field,
Discus and javelin over by, between Scout and Hole,
on natural grass.
All right.
Yeah, we know.
which is always fun when the little league kids run out there.
Good night.
Mike Graham.
Can I ask a question? So, Bo, in Park and Rec, the commission has approved to set aside funds to resurface the track. Over the next 4 years, we're gonna set aside money to do that.
Just
Should
did it,
not, excuse me?
just did it.
We just,
In minutes, just from a few months ago, the commission states that they're gonna set aside
Yeah, they do.
$12,500.
They have that
Okay,
report.
fine, fair enough.
That's part of the.
My
Yeah.
question is, should not the next resurfacing and this take place at the same time?
We're not
Why?
gonna touch the track, this won't.
They're on
this
two
won't-
different schedules, they're on two different schedules.
Okay,
It was just not-
I see the agenda
It's a-
I mean, it's wants to be.
The track is done on a, what is it,
5-year.
five-year basis, it's not due for another 3 years.
All right, I have another question. The current turf field,
Yes.
how far, we're in year four of
Yes.
it? And how is it right now? What's
It's
the
actually
condition?
it's actually held up very well. One of the things that, I mean, you have the usual turf maintenance things. You
Sure.
look at the seams, you have to, once in a while you have a seam, you have to open the seams. We had the field, we had the field Zamboni come in and clean the field this year, but we do not have, because of the design of the field, we don't have the fly out of the material coming out, and we don't have a lot of movement of the encapsulated infill that we have on the field. For the maintenance for us is we tine it, groom it, blow the organics off, and every 4 or 5 years it has to be shampooed.
Right, I understand that, but I'm more asking the longevity, so the turf fields, my
The guy who
understanding, range
cleaned- the guy who
between 8
cleaned-
and 13 years.
The guy who cleaned, I'm gonna answer you. The guy who cleaned the field this year said he felt that we should be able to get another 10 years out of that field without any issue whatsoever.
Have any fields that they've installed lasted that long?
Yes.
Lasted
no,
20 years?
Oh, yeah.
not 20, 15.
15.
Around 15.
15.
Yeah, and that was from the old design. The material today is much more durable. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand why we wouldn't do, I
The
I
track-
still haven't bought into the need for
Yes.
that.
That's fine.
That's.
But I'd like to hear that, I mean, as a taxpayer, if we're gonna bond
And
this,
the other thing,
people ask me questions, so.
we're getting to the point with the amount of activity, we're gonna have to either do this or build new fields.
Build
more
more fields.
fields.
And what's the cost difference between those two things? Has somebody
Because there's
done
more
that
for- there's more for
analysis?
him.
Significant, you probably pay the same amount of money to build
No,
it.
I wouldn't get probably, I wanna see where that's kind of been analyzed, that you know,
First of all, we
what's
don't
the,
have property.
First of all, you gotta find land. So if you wanna listen to what I'm gonna tell you, because we've looked at this 100 different ways. You'd have to find land. You then have to have, and the land you're gonna find, they've already looked at doing something over on Cream
Cream
Pot.
Pot, I read that.
It's, can't be done. We've looked at the other, and it can't be done without a significant amount of work. So what you wind up is, you're gonna buy a piece of marginal land, which, quite frankly, which is what IROC was, it was a bargain because they didn't have to pay for it. And then you have to construct fields on it, which require irrigation, which require all kinds of maintenance on them. And by the time you're done, you wind up, I would say, estimating, and we can get the estimate for you, put those fields in, spending the same amount of money to gain maybe 3 fields, and you can put 3 fields on that field.
okay, I'm just saying, as, you know,
I understand.
the last turf field wasn't really popular, and I
No,
think
it
if
was
you're
not.
gonna go and not, you know, make those, statement, or make the analyses out there, you're gonna have a real hard time selling it, and I think you're gonna have real, I mean, how many, is that just for football?
No,
No.
it's gonna have lacrosse.
No,
Soccer.
soccer, lacrosse, and football.
For Park and Rec, or for just Morgan?
High school and park and
You
rec.
won't be able to get high school
It
soccer.
won't be high school soccer.
No, but you get a small soccer field
You
for park and rec.
get some
All right,
intermediate.
and,
Lacrosse should be all.
and the concession stands, who's operating that to, I mean, is there Foresight, and who's gonna like operate it to help offset?
No.
Cost? Yeah, the Morgan, the Friends of Morgan football runs it,
Yeah, and the
correct? Do
soccer runs it during their tournament.
Right, but I mean, so,
Clinton Touchdown Club uses it.
right, do any of those give proceeds back to the town to when they get the opportunity to run that and use that as a fundraiser?
No,
No.
why would you? You're trying to support youth activities, youth sports, so why would you give it back to the town?
Well, I know that concessions
Every-
make a lot of money,
everybody
so I
uses it.
don't
Yeah, but
understand
they
why
put
you
the
can't
money
just
back.
give a little
They
bit
put the
back to
money
the
back
town.
into the program.
Yeah.
I mean,
They
they'll
offset the clock.
So,
keep
so how,
They do make.
is there a
substantial
breakdown on
donations,
field
so-
usage and,
I
I just look, I'm gonna be,
See, I can tell you right now, just with youth football, and Rack can attest to his son plays too. There's 6 teams that are practicing on field 6 in the dark.
That's true.
trying to
every
get
team practices in the dark this
No,
time of
no,
year.
soccer's got the portable lights.
I just watched 3 practices go on last night.
But I'm just saying, but there's 6 teams on a small little area,
Soccer
because
has
there's
a-
nowhere else for them to go.
Soccer has a lit
So
practice.
that'll get them over there, you get 2 teams over there, 2 teams on their other field or whatever.
Turf field is.
Turf field, soccer can practice on the turf, you can set times from 5 to 6, you got the field from 5 to 6:30.
This isn't a foregone conclusion.
6:30 to 8.
Hoops got a lot of hoops to do.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm trying to
You're
figure it out, because, I mean, my understanding was I stumbled upon this in the Board of Finance meetings, looking for something else, and I followed the progression of this, and you want it to go to referendum in December. So I'm trying to understand the need for it. I mean, I'm guessing that Park and Rec proposed this, but I didn't see that in any Park and Rec minutes, or,
I've pushed for it too.
but I mean, where, how? What-
I don't
I mean,
know.
it's not in
First of all, I
any
think, here's the
minutes
deal,
to
I think,
understand it.
before I be honest with you,
Yeah.
I understand your questions, and I understand it, but it's now, in this group, it'll go before the body committee, it'll go
Well, there's no
before.
bond committee, it'll
Not
go
bond,
before
it's
board of
Board of
selectmen, board of
Selectmen.
finance.
Board of Finance, Board of Finance,
Town
Board of
meeting.
Selectmen, and a town meeting.
No public hearing?
Yeah,
It's part of
But
it.
I guess I'm just like.
Well, you're gonna, then you'll have an opportunity to ask, you'll have an opportunity to ask.
Yeah, this has to go
Right.
balance sheet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One other question, is this, I mean, are all of these items gonna be line item in the bond package?
I think we're gonna do 3 separate questions.
We're gonna talk about that now.
You don't wanna go?
Okay,
Well,
great.
Manward's here, you wanna beat him up?
Yeah, sure.
Because he gives us no information at all.
No, I apologize.
Oh, and by the way, going back to this,
I apologize, I've been in New Jersey
going
since
back to
Sunday, so
the Peters Complex, I am going to apply for a $500,000 grant from the state towards this. So regardless of the grant, the full authorization has to be the full amount, which is 1.6.
Right, I
And then
understand.
the grant supplements.
well, we got a grant for the communications.
Right, right.
I couldn't remember if you had it in the CEC as split over 2 years or just 1 year.
Yes, was split over 2 years. And we just got notification on September 25th. We're not eligible for a grant this year, so when it comes up again, probably in January, we're gonna resubmit anyway. It doesn't cost us anything to submit for the grant, so it's just a matter of, the legwork on our end. So, I'll answer whatever questions you have.
And I think the one thing we wanted to get, and you'll have it obviously, you came up with a $650,000 number. Pete said it's a proprietary vendor, so
Correct.
it's not like a bid process.
Yep.
But if you can be specific about the cost, so you can break that out,
Sure.
to get me to that 650.
Okay,
People understand
absolutely.
what that is. And the one question we asked, but I don't know if you'll know any more than they did, is the timing of the grant, the probability of the grant.
It's like rolling
There you
dice.
go.
Yeah, it's-
Okay, I figured that's what you're.
I know with the field,
There is also a process where, if we were to fund it on our own, and the grant were to be awarded, similar to what happened with the communications
Yeah.
project, you just have to declare that, and then there is an option for a reimbursement. So it all depends on where they are in that process at that time.
well, the grant will go to the fire department, and then the fire department has to write a check back to the town.
I mean, that's basically what we
That's
did.
what
We
we
did
did
a
for
split, we did a
communications.
split invoice last time with the communications project.
The one other comment I think we had was, and you may hear it from either the finance board or the selectmen. This is all, we're doing everything at once,
Yes.
and we're trying to figure out if there's a way you can do this in a tiered way so that they don't all come due all at the same time, just like the fire.
15 years from now.
The issue that I run into is they change
Yeah.
every couple of years. And it's a huge safety consideration, first off, and then secondary to that, it's a training issue. We run into it, there's departments in our area that have 4 generations of air packs, and it's a mess, because they did that. It's easy for me, and the majority of departments that do them all in one shot,
Gotcha.
just to,
So there's the same model.
I can stock parts for one item.
Retrofit
There's no change, it's
Does it change
streamlined
that?
across the board,
It changed that much?
yeah.
Yeah.
In the last 3 years, they've had 4 version changes.
Jeez.
In
So
that
then
one,
you have
in
to
that one
retrofit
file.
what you have.
Yeah, what do you do?
The issue we run into now is, it's almost, if I was to take what we currently have and retrofit it to a new one, to make it to go from the 97 standard to the 2013 standard, you're at about 85% of the cost. And I have to, and that's just bringing the unit up to speed. The bottle has a 15-year lifespan, it's done, they throw it away.
Right.
So, I mean, then you're talking of, $800 or $1,000 a clip.
So we're not, if this goes forward, we're not gonna have, you're gonna have to come back in 7, 8 years and say we gotta do it again.
Nope.
You
Another
will in
15 years.
15, in 15.
Right.
you will.
Well, we-
Yeah.
Somebody else is at it again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm staying optimistic.
That's
so
why there's a plan.
I'm gonna be here. I mean, this is not new, this has been in the 10-year plan, 20-year plan for,
I mean, we
From the beginning.
continually defer items in the CEC plan, and then all of a sudden, bang, you got a truck, you got a truck, you got a dump truck,
And we've
you got
been
a boat,
prohibited
you
from
got
putting aside,
a CDA.
No sinking funds anymore, we were in the sinking funds, it was great.
I mean, originally, Tom, it was broken out over 3 years in CEC early on, and then when
Well, it was-
the finance rules changed, we
But
had
we're
to run
allowed-
it to 2 year.
We are allowed, I think, under the rules, to have capital accounts, but our rules say that whatever we have in a capital account has to continually be requested every 2 years.
2 years, you gotta spend it.
So
I mean-
you can put money aside for that stuff as like a sinking fund, but every 2 years.
It's still an appropriation from the debt.
I mean, and I could split off, like, the compressor, for example, is older than the SCBA. The breathing air compressor is from 1993. You're looking at a cost of probably $65,000 to $70,000 with installation. You can move that to CEC, but, the issue I run into there is, I'm on borrowed time. And we've had it since 1993, we've probably spent maybe $12,000 over the life of the unit, so it's served us very well.
This is probably where we should probably make sure that our finance director
That's why it was easier just
give
to,
us a good update as to our undesignated surplus now.
We're supposed to be getting that number soon.
We're getting close.
I think we're doing it, right?
I think that must be.
Door up, yeah, it's out.
We put it in there before we sold it.
She's working on
They let us
it.
know.
Projected budget, so.
We requested,
Can be
No, I wouldn't interact with
we
that.
requested an
The wall was
update,
built
an
in 96
designated
and she
update
was
on the
like
contingency,
Yeah,
update on the
yeah.
unfinished audit fieldwork items,
manufacturers. thinks
an
it's-
analysis of the current
can't get the new one
bonding
in.
and the new items that are
New
going
ones.
up.
Projected
against-
bonding, yeah.
Yeah, projected.
I already bought this
You can
in,
break them
so
down
it's
to
the mark, so he's gonna run numbers.
Plus, I think we have to also project out
That's good,
against
that was,
budgets.
I can refine those.
Operating, but I don't see anything major coming up,
Hopefully it's.
but you're gonna see small increments
Yeah,
on the operating
well, you're
side.
gonna see
You
debt
wanna-
service.
I just wanna make sure that our surplus
Huh?
remains at that comfortable level, we wanna
But
make
each
sure we
individual
keep
person.
it double A rated.
Well, we don't have a choice. It's in our,
10%.
Oh, no, we have a choice and we can go to hell with it, but I don't wanna do that, that's not what I got, that's not what I signed up for. We can do what we did when I first joined, we threw a whole surplus into the budget. We were bankrupt.
Yes, we were.
yeah,
We were.
I know it.
Absolutely.
Between 4.6 and 5 in there, all time.
No, we were at negative.
We were negative.
We were
Well, I think we're at like,
4.7.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're five.
Well, I think
Close to
there's
6,
some reconciliation there because we do
Well, I
have.
haven't
Well,
said anything.
I got more flat, we were negative.
We were negative.
We were
We're
negative.
close to 6 right now.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and does that include any of the reimbursements from people?
No.
No.
We
No,
haven't gotten any.
I'm just finishing up those projects are actually in process right now, so.
that's $700,000.
700 maybe,
The
maybe a
problem
little
with the
bit.
bonding prior to 2010 was it was all flat.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been graduated, there was no follow-up.
So now you gotta do a
on the
big
10-year
jump.
plan. We're gonna have a big chunk.
Big
Oh,
chunk.
yeah, well, that's school bill here.
Well, there's still a bunch on.
We're easing it, doing the bands and doing the stuff we're doing smooth. Like Mark said, this stuff, even this stuff, if it passes, whatever passes out of this, you won't see it for 2 or 3 years.
Right, so what are the 3 proposed questions? Well, I'm sorry, is there any more on this?
Well, I'll send it to Marie and on her drive, send us, we'll try to meet, I'd like to meet before, you're away next week, right?
I'm done for November.
Out of state.
Because I'd like to get to the Board of Finance in November.
That was gonna be my question, when do you want these numbers refined by, so I can try to.
Well, I
Varying.
think, we're not gonna do it for November because the election, the federal election.
It won't be going to referendum by then.
The referendum,
Board of
She
Finance.
has the numbers with it.
You have to have it by November for Board of Finance.
I'd like to think it either December or January referendum.
Okay, fine,
So,
like for some of that, I gotta bring in a
region.
regional rep from the manufacturer.
That's a lot, I mean,
But we need to know a hard number for this. It
Okay.
can't be just
yeah, it's just.
this.
That's why, if I
For
get
a
by the
resolution.
deadline, I can
You
start
would
tomorrow,
want to
setting
do-
up a meeting.
I need the resolution, I need the number for a resolution for Marie. I'll have her draft 3 resolutions based on these numbers, that we can either move on or we can.
Right away.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's
Yeah, but that would, you
too
say,
late, or is,
no, I mean, listen. I can put together a generic bid that'll cover 50% of this in a day.
okay.
Based on all the information I have already, based on.
We've already done.
That
Well,
would
I'm
work
talking
out,
more
but,
about the subject,
and this'll go to 1 of 3 vendors for the first phase, which would be really.
Board of Finance meets on the 17th.
I think I may be there for that, because I'm I'm
That's
actually in
state
Newport
board.
that.
And I'd like to go to the selectmen on the 12th if we're gonna go forward.
Yeah, I'll be in Newport, I could probably come in, I'll just drive home.
Cool.
Okay.
Right.
Who wants to be in Newport in November anyway?
Right, everyone wants to go in.
So those of us that can, you and Brad and I probably that should meet, if we can next week. Or the early part of the following week, 10th or the 11th.
If you wanna call me in,
10th, we can meet before we have the meeting with the Board of Ed.
if you wanna call me in, you wanna call me on the phone too, I can be available that way, if it makes sense. You want me?
You want me next week?
I mean, if you're gonna have another,
Well, I mean,
get together.
do you have your calendar?
I know next week I'm in Malvern, Pennsylvania. The following week I'm in Midland, Texas.
Good for you.
Good for you.
The week after that I'm in,
Well,
it is ugly out there. I just sit out there. But it's rich.
Garden State, I'm to 286.
I can say it's $70.
And the week after that I'm in Newport, but like I said, I can make it to the meeting.
You wanna do Board of Selectmen November 12th. I mean, next week I could.
But then after that, I'm.
Bottom line,
The
it drops
6th,
off.
I mean, I could do
John's
the
getting
6th
married.
at night.
Okay.
John's getting married after.
Put that on
Thanksgiving.
Thursday, the 6th.
So forget me, that's frustrating.
November 6th.
Seven?
Earlier.
Six?
I could be there.
Boys got practice at
5:30,
6.
6 o'clock.
Plans with 6, we're gonna have to drop them off for practice, because they'll be playing next week again.
Because they're gonna be Brantford.
Yeah, they're gonna be
All
Brantford.
right, 6
That's
o'clock.
next week?
Yeah,
You can always, I'll be in Philly, you wanna call me.
okay,
Do you have my stuff?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
So I'll
I
get,
think I might know it by heart.
I don't even use one.
I'll get resolutions drafted.
say 3.
Your resolutions drafted today. I'll get Mark Chapman to give us, I'll get Mark Chapman to give us a debt service
So,
report,
that's an example,
the impact report.
her answer.
Yeah.
And then we'll-
Marginal
Well, I
land.
have one that I
Years
used
ago.
to,
Jan? Why is
but
Fred
didn't have the
Schill?
bands on it though.
No.
The one I hate.
98,
So
so
15 years
15 years ago, IROC.
15 years ago.
As an example, 15 years ago, IROC, marginal
I'm
land.
sorry?
IROC,
Uh-huh.
4 fields, marginal land.
You were blasting rock.
To build that complex was only 1.6, 1.7 million dollars.
Right, where I'm coming from is I've just read so many different things that don't ever
Well,
try to be sold
I
on
think
a
the
turf
problem
field
is-
because it's the cost,
No.
maintenance cost is so much cheaper. That's.
No,
that's where
I'm not
coming
saying that the maintenance, I would never say that the maintenance, it makes sense when you, if you look at it as a field, as an individual, no. What you save on maintenance, because that's a turf field, does not pay for itself based on maintenance. When you add in the playability of the field, how many times it can be rotated in and out, because when it was a grass field, it could only be used for one sport, once a week or twice a week, and that was it. Now it's used all day long, all night long, on weekends, and
Football
but
fields.
when you add in everything else that it
from.
does,
Is that
I
okay
think
for
that
the
field is
board?
actually used the least out of
Not
all
the
of
same
them.
ground, it's different.
The
Because of
current,
drainage,
what you are
It's basically-
proposing
it's
for the
because of
turf
drainage,
field.
that's
No,
why.
the
well,
turf
because
field,
it's only good for
Football
football.
fields are supposed to have.
We do put, we've had put,
blue cross,
Yeah.
we put cross out, we put field hockey.
soccer doesn't play on.
All over the state.
We use it for soccer tournaments. Yeah.
The tournament, but
We're field hockey.
twice a year.
Here's-
Come on, twice
Here's
a
the
year.
problem, in order to convert, that's what we're talking about, usability. In order to convert that to a field hockey field, it takes 2 of my guys 3 days.
I would just like to see a bigger picture, more forward thinking, that maybe we could utilize this, make it into a facility that can be used for bigger projects, bigger events that will bring in some
The interesting thing
revenues,
about
but in this scheme it won't, because we did, the way we do things in this town is we go like, nope, this is the time to do this project, no, we'll bring down the track when it's up in 4 years, but we won't try to
Well,
be
the track
forward.
is- We're looking at doing something with the track as part of this bid, but you have to understand, we've invested a lot.
Wait, you just,
No, no, maybe an option to read a different type of resurfacing.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to understand, that track's in good shape.
for this
That
year.
track,
Just double checking with her.
as part of one of the options we're looking at is to do what's called a micro resurfacing, which will extend the life beyond.
Armando,
Okay.
Armando track,
Today
I would recommend
Dennis
Armando
came.
track.
I don't know, I said, that was one of the things that we were talking about.
I'm just, you know.
That track's in good, that track is in good shape, and we do.
We're very
these projects.
short-sighted, my thing is, we're very short-sighted.
How screwed us today?
And there's potential to bring in revenues.
We're so short-sighted, we got road to pave and drive.
He didn't bring the.
I understand that. You're preaching to the choir. Bring in revenue.
I would much rather see our road.
You want to rent the facility, is that
Oh,
what?
I'm sorry.
You want to rent the facility, is that what you're talking about?
No, I think it would be wide, I mean, we could host, state
We do.
championships on.
We heard.
When was the last track
Not there.
championship on there?
Well, you have to have an 8-lane track.
Again, coming back to my forward thinking, let's see how it costs, do the cost analysis
You're
on.
talking about,
Right.
you're talking about the ability to get a turf field.
I have to go right,
Right,
yep.
and get the-
I think if you presented with a proposal that shows that you can bring in revenues from it, and you might have a better shot.
State track needs, costs us money.
Right, but USA Track and Field has veterans
I gotta go do
meets, master
samples for
seats,
police
open meets,
75th
and they all need a
It's the
facility.
7th, right?
So,
November.
there's actually a Grand
It would
Prix.
never pay for the track.
I think you'd be surprised, there's a Grand Prix meet in New New York State that brings in.
Huh?
Where they gonna park?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the facility's used by other groups.
When's that? Are we the 13th?
What are you gonna do?
Board of Finance.
Our Board of Finances is 17th?
But I mean,
Besides
certain
that.
facilities use all on every weekend
Yeah,
from.
we should, you know, some people who are not with, you know, in our park and rec programs,
I don't
they
like
should be
this.
kind of paying for that. If the taxpayers came for the maintenance.
I'm not following, to be honest with
What's
you.
that?
Well, you just said people come in from all over to use
No, no,
it.
no, I said, when the facilities are used by town leagues, sponsored by the town, sponsored by local people. School athletics,
With that
these
group?
facilities go from April 1st,
Oh, you know?
all week long, all weekend long.
Right.
Through November, so where are you gonna bring in, we can't even host some things that they want us to host, because we don't have the ability to host.
Oh, these things happen in the
Well,
summertime.
I think the problem we have with that is.
We gotta close seals down.
We've got close, well, we would have to close the track down, but, I mean,
Again, it's just like thinking outside the
yeah, I'd
box.
like to, give me, I'll tell you what, I'll ask you the same question, show me how much money they take.
All right,
Give me some information.
I will.
And then I'll figure out, we'll look at that versus
I mean, that's
anything.
why do you think I never wanted to do it after? I
Because
had
you'd
it?
have to totally change the concept of an alien track.
Well, I know that a recent town that I happened to see just proposed a turf field and a little track.
That was a saber.
In my client's.
No,
Well, the Sabres in
Sabre.
court, because they didn't have any luck with
But it's just the whole breakdown that was presented was a little more thorough.
Yeah.
That's right. we gotta
Yeah.
take-
Take care, you guys.
Oh, what do you know?
See you later.
State?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, they did.
figures.
So,